So the stallion in this picture, he's an older wild Mustang stallion. And so what happens is the stallion is challenged by a younger stallion. And if he loses, then he's out of the herd. He's exiled. There's no parade. There's no thank you. He's just forced to roam by himself and find another way. Full of scars that are a roadmap of the wars he's won and how he survived in the wild with his herd. And he is constantly trying to find a mare and another herd and another belonging, and another way to lead and to find another way to have value. When the photographer Tim West had told me this story while I was at the Mustang Heritage Foundation, I was struck by the parallels in my own story and so many veteran stories of what happens when we leave the service. And see, we have a pandemic across the board in America of suicide. But our veterans make up 1% of the country, and they make up 18% of the suicides in our country. Why is that? Are they like the stallion? They get out, they're being told that their resume doesn't equate to the civilian standards and they need to start here to get here when they've been here? Are they being told that their leadership qualities and training don't translate to the civilian world, even though they're better in most cases? Are they being told to reinvent themselves? How you walk, how you talk? And what if they don't fit in? And what if they don't conform? I'm Bill Schwenk. I am the founder of the Mustangs and Heroes Foundation, and I'm a 22-year Army veteran. I just want to thank the Mustang Heritage Foundation for having me this week. It's been a pleasure. I love what they're doing for the Mustangs, promoting Mustangs and trying to preserve the Mustangs. I had a great time meeting the different vendors and programs like Soul Stang, which is doing the same thing up in Ohio as we are doing. Amazing people, amazing group. Camp South, which is using these kids that are foster kids and teaching them how to ride and show Mustangs. See, in 2016, I volunteered to go on deployment to Kuwait. And I had volunteered 3 times throughout my career, and I was never allowed to go. I was told that I was in a position where I couldn't go. And when I went, I ended up being the XO of the Army Watercraft Company, which, if you're like me, I didn't know we had one, right? And about 2 months in, no fault of my own, I got told that I was being moved back to AJ with my command team. And I got a call, and I was asked if I wanted to be part of the small team that went to Iraq and supported the Special Operations Joint Task Force in Syria. And of course I accepted. I jumped at the chance to go. And when I got there, I was over all the equipment that went out of Syria for conventional and special operations. And eventually I was promoted into managing all the commodities that went in and out of Syria. I went around to different sites in Syria, inspected them, make sure they had everything they needed. And see, being in a combat zone never bothered me. I wasn't scared of that. You see, when you're raised in the environment I was raised, when your mother grabs you by the hand and throws you in a car and tells you your father, I don't want to take him, and you live in garages and different people's houses for weeks, twice in your childhood, and you hear different things. You learn how to be, you learn what insecurity is before you do love. When your father leaves you in that environment over and over again, you learn real quick that nothing in this life is safe. So when I was in a combat zone, I loved it. I thrived in it. I loved being locked in. And so when I got back to America, and I got back to Fort Hood where we were out processing, we're on a little compound, and I was walking down the street, and I was so conflicted because I hadn't seen my beautiful wife. The next Tuesday will be 25 years we've been married. I haven't seen my 4 beautiful children, my 2 now awesome grandchildren, for a year. I so badly wanted to see them, but I didn't want to go home. I wanted to be in Iraq. So conflicted that I sat on the curb and tears running down my eyes, and I called my best friend in the world, which I call my adopted brother, Michael, and he'd been deployed multiple times, and I said, man, what in the world's going on with me, bro? I don't really even understand what's going on. And he basically told me the story about touching the tail of the dragon. Now, once you touch the tail of the dragon, that's all you want. And he reined me in a little bit and got me back in check, told me what was really important in my life, my wife and my children. That's what I had value as a father and a husband. And when I got home, I remember me and my wife went to John Apple Distillery. And it was about a week after I got home. We saw somebody I've known forever that I enjoyed, I cared about. We had just gotten our drinks on our hands, and a person came up to me and said, hey, man, Bill, we missed you. We loved you. We're so glad you're back. I remember looking at my wife and saying, I'm ready to go home now. I don't want to be here. My wife looked at me, surprised. It's okay. So we got in the car, and I remember looking at my wife and saying, she didn't miss me. I didn't miss them. Their life wasn't changed when I was gone. My life wasn't changed at all. And I actually don't want to be here anyway. I want to be where I know I mattered, where I knew I affected the mission. I didn't learn until years later what those words and me spiraling when I got out did to my wife. And that's not something it cuts deep in your soul when you realize that the time away, those scars, they affect your wife and your children. A year later, I got hurt on a jump. I was with 20th Group Special Forces, and I was out at Warrior Training Center, and I got hurt on a jump. I couldn't feel my left leg and my left foot. I ignored it for a couple of days. My blood pressure was actually out the roof too, to the point where I had trouble seeing. I couldn't read. I was just not in a good place physically. And they sent me to mental health because they thought I had PTSD. And they were right. Go figure. And what I had learned through that was I didn't just have PTSD from being in a combat zone. I had PTSD my whole life. And so when I got out, I'm dealing with that at the same time. I'm dealing with the reality of that. And I got out during COVID. I don't know how many job applications I put out, but I got no interviews. No one wanted me. The resume I had built, it didn't matter. It didn't equate to the civilian world. The people I've led, I've formed and shaped, it didn't matter. And so I started a company. It was very successful with that company. Last year, I know you're waiting for the Mustangs to come in, right? These beautiful animals. Here we go, right? Last year, me and my wife took a trip with some of our best friends in the world to out west, out to Utah. And then we ended in Nevada. We took a horse ride through Red Rock Canyon. And while we were taking a horseback ride, when we got done, I realized my core was on fire. I told my wife, I said, hey man, listen, we got 26 acres of land. We start clearing it. We'll get a horse now. By the time it's done with the trainer, we'll be good. My wife said, okay. And my wife at that moment knew, like she was hoping I was just thinking out loud. And the way my wife puts it, before we left Nevada, we had a Mustang. And she's probably right. I had set up an appointment with Babby in Leeds to go see the Mustangs. And when we went to go see the Mustangs, she had, I think, 6 there. They were up for adoption. And man, I picked out this one. He was personable. He was fun. I didn't know horses were like that. It was like a lab, right? I told my wife, I was like, this is the one I want. This is the one we're getting. I'm gonna go get some alfalfa, but there's one horse over in the corner that we haven't really talked to. So why don't you go talk to him for a minute? But this is the one we're getting. I come back and I see something that will be etched in my memory for the rest of my life. I see my wife, and she's holding this Mustang in her hands, in her head to head. And the trainer comes up behind me, Michael. He says, man, he picked his owner. He said, you want to hear something crazy, man? I've touched him with one hand on the face. No one has touched him with 2 hands. And no one has definitely put their head on his head. There was no way my wife wasn't taking that horse home. That's all there is to it. And I still didn't know much about horses or Mustangs. We got to Danzel, is his name. He's named after my wife's first trainer who had died a month before. And when we got Danzel a trainer, we would drive 25 minutes every day just to brush him out, just to take him for a walk, just to say hello from outside the fence. Anything we can do to build a relationship with this wild Mustang. And see, I've never been around the back of a horse. I've never touched a horse's stomach. I've never touched their feet before. Within a month, I've done all those things. I told my wife after about a month, I said, baby, I've been through a lot of things. I get more of being with that horse than I do most of my therapy sessions. She's 900 pounds. I've got to be present. He could feel my heartbeat from 3 feet away. So if I'm agitated, he's agitated. He's going to respond to that because he's a prey animal. His instinct is to survive. He's raw and he's real, and I know where he stands with me. And I know if I'm safe or not. He's going to tell me with his body language whether I'm safe or not. And see, as a veteran, you can't paint a better picture for me. You can't give me a better partner to be around. After about a month, I called Babby and said, hey, Scarface, we should call Wilson now. Is he around? Is he available? Because Danzel needs a partner. Very relational, very herd-oriented. So yes, but he's going to trainer. I said, okay, I'll pay for it. I'll cover it. I was making good money at the time. No big deal. 3 days later, I got a picture. Wilson had been ran through a fence by the horses as a trainer. And you can see the tendons and bone in his back left foot. See, I don't know horses. So I thought, we're probably going to lose him. I don't know. And Babby, being Babby, had her team go get him right away. She had vets come out. They nursed him back to health, bandaged him up for months on end, twice a day. She called me one day and said, do you still want Wilson? And I said, yeah, I want to go check out. I want to check him out. So I went up there, it wasn't lame. He moved well. I called the vet. I said, listen, you'll be able to ride him. He might have arthritis in 5-10 years. But, he's still going to be a great horse. The vet actually called me the next day, asked me what I had planned to do, which I thought was very rare. And said, have you decided what to do about him? I said, yeah. You said I could probably get 5 years out of him, right? And then he'll be part of my family. He'll be part of my herd. I'll actually probably never ride Wilson. I don't know. We'll see. When Wilson got home, he was the first one to the land. Danzel and Muffin, that's another story in itself, were 2 weeks behind. They were coming from the trainer. I couldn't envision him staying on that land by himself. I couldn't bring myself to do it to him. He had been ripped out of his herd. He had went through the BLM process. He went to Babby's. He went to the trainer. He got ran through a fence. He had spent months healing. Now he's coming here. I couldn't bring my heart to let him be alone out there. So I set up a cot in the middle of the pasture. I put a four-wheeler on one side and some other things around me to make sure if he got spooked, I didn't get ran over. And I spent the night out there with him. It was 22 degrees out, and I'm crazy. I get it. But I woke up 2 o'clock in the morning, and Wilson is over my feet. His head is over my feet. I was kind of shocked, because, again, I don't know horses on that level. I was like, okay, he's not doing anything, so I'll leave him go. 2 hours later, Wilson's still above my feet. When I wake up in the morning, Wilson is 10 feet from me and he's sleeping on the ground. A month ago, somebody told me that had known horses forever, I think it was actually Michael, said, hey man, he was actually protecting you. See, Wilson and Danzel, these Mustangs they're part of my herd. They're part of my family. They give me an extended purpose beyond my wife and my kids. And see, that's where the program comes in. I got fired from my job in December, partially my fault. I lost my company 2 weeks later. And I'd heard this sermon, this kid, Anthony Michael out of Atlanta, Kids on Fire. And he's talking about the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus had healed all these people, right? And the people wanted him to become the king of Jerusalem. And they were going to come to him and ask him to be the king of Jerusalem. So he put the disciples on a boat, and he sent them on the Sea of Galilee. Now, this isn't a cruise ship or the Titanic. And this is probably the roughest sea there is in the world. But he did it to protect them. And then Christ, as he always did, when he got done performing miracles and working, he went to a quiet place to be with his Father. And he prayed, and he sought guidance. And my wife came home from being with her family, and I said, hey, I'm going to the land. She said, okay, you're going to go out there, get your work, get ready for the horses to get here. I said, no. I'm going to do the one thing I haven't done in about 5 years. You see, when I got deployed, I put the Lord aside and say, hey, I got this. I'm going to do my job, I'm going to do it well. And I did. I'm going to go talk to the Lord one-on-one, just me and him. And I yelled, I cried, asked why. Just like the 12-year-old that asked why and cried himself asleep. Why is my father not here? Why am I dealing with the things I'm dealing with? Again, I was left to ask why. And see, unlike a year ago before this, I wasn't that veteran with a gun in his hand and a letter written and a bottle of whiskey. I was beyond that. I had a community. I had these horses. I had made some progress in healing in my life. And so I wasn't going to be that statistic. I wasn't that veteran anymore. So I was asking the Lord why. And it was very clear. The Lord doesn't always answer me verbally. But it was very clear what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to serve him first with all my life, with every second of my day. And he wanted me to create this foundation, helping other veterans understand that there's different ways in which we can heal. So the first thing about Mustangs and Heroes and Extended Hearts Foundation is so that we can extend our hearts out to other people and show them that God loves them. They don't have to be Christians for us to love them. That's just why we do our business. But we want them to know that there's equine therapy available. There's community available. You're still loved and mattered and needed. And the program is set up to where, a veteran can come in, and if they want to be part of the Mustangs and Heroes program, they can. And then they can be partnered with a Mustang. We'll train them from the ground level. And when they get through the phases and learn the different skill sets it takes to eventually ground train these Mustangs, and eventually they'll adopt that Mustang. And we'll still keep them for them, we'll still feed them, but they'll be responsible for being part of that equation, for being part of the community that helps heal people and walk alongside people, alongside veterans and first responders that need us to walk next to them, that need people who look like them, walk like them, talk like them, and identify with them and understand what they're going through and what they're saying. We got hit with flooding 2 months ago. In April, we got hit with 8 inches of rain within 4 to 5 hours. The most in 100 years in that area. Went out to check on the horses, and I told my wife, I said, it was like going from Mustangs to seahorses. Actually, I stole it from somebody else. Can't remember who it is. Whoever you are, thank you. It was crazy. It was fun, actually, exhilarating, but it was crazy. Chasing Mustangs around, them kicking and biting, and water moccasins coming up with like cobras on us, right? Trying to get Mustangs loaded on a trailer. We just stood out in the rain and loading with Mackie, getting into Mackie's place. And thank you, Mackie, for letting us do that. Babby offered to, and we just chose Mackie's because it was closer. And this is my family. I wanted to be able to take care of my horses. And I got up every morning, drove up there, took care of them, came back, and we had to rebuild. And my buddy Jacob was fishing one day. He met this other veteran, Jason, and Jason had gotten out of the Air Force 9 months ago. He was an Air Force EOD tech, which is a bomb tech. Played with bombs for a living. But he's asking an instructor at that. Very smart dude, man. Squared away, loves the Lord, very reliable, crafty dude. And he lost his father a month prior to that. He had no community. He had his wife and his children, but he had no fellow believers. He had no fellow veterans to walk with him. And he was hurting, naturally. He lost his father. And Jacob had told him about us. 2 days later, Jason was out there helping me with a fence. 2 days after that, Jason came to me and said, hey, man, I'd like to be out here 3 days a week with you. I'd like to help you more. And he's been out there ever since. See, Jason and me were the stallion in this picture. We were the stallion that had left or been kicked out of the herd. And we were searching for a new herd. We're searching for a new identity. We're searching for a new way to apply those leadership skills and be valued. So Mustangs and Heroes, that's what we're about. We want to be that community that brings them in and utilizes their skill set. We want to take Mustangs and gentle them and adopt them out. We want to break them and come and sell them at the auction at the Mustang Heritage Foundation. Yes, we need help. Yeah, our road is ridiculously in bad shape. Yes, my truck got totaled coming out of the driveway. It's been real. We do have the fences rebuilt, thanks to Jason and some other veterans. We are trying to move to the drier side. We don't have any money. We're trusting the Lord. And He is providing. He's providing through people like Piedmont Fertilizer, through helping us with our feed. He's providing through people like Builders First and Russell Building Supply, providing lumber. He's providing with people that are donating beautiful horses, and people like Babby who are helping with horses. He's providing at every single turn. That is Mustangs and Heroes. That's what we're about. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on our Facebook page. More than anything, we need prayer. We just pray that the Lord will bring us the veterans that need that community. We pray that the Lord will, in His time, help us fix what we need to fix on the land and create the things we need to properly care for these horses and more horses and our veterans and grow in an appropriate manner. I thank you for your time, and God bless.